Okay, this is going to be a standard test route on FSD Beta 10.6.1. This is actually a fine route, so we'll just go ahead and let it go.
Now turn right onto 72nd Street North.
The really slow creeping, checking for visibility is still there. Right turn. Steering wheel is definitely a lot more smooth than it's been.
Now turn right onto 9th Avenue North.
I really don't like that it continues to creep when there's cars coming. It concerns both me and oncoming drivers, but continuing on just fine.
Now turn right onto 66th Street North.
This like creeping forward functionality is still not really good. And now we've got a biker coming up. He didn't want the car getting into the crosswalk anymore, so that he would have to get closer to the road. Okay, so it should go. And it is going. I guess I shouldn't say biker, I should say cyclist, since the two kind of mean different things. It was a cyclist. Unfortunately, FSD Beta doesn't like consider things like that. Like I'm pretty sure it should have been able to see that cyclist. It just, I guess, currently isn't programmed to give him some space. It'll be interesting if this drive is any different than my first drive with 10.6.1. So I've done this route already with 10.6.1. I did it, I think the morning after we got it. I think the update came fairly late on whatever day it was. Saturday, I guess. So I did a test on Sunday, whatever day it was. And, or no, maybe it was Monday. Regardless, it was not very good. In fact, it was one of the worst drives that I've had on FSD Beta. So I guess we'll see if there's any difference this time. Coming to a stop is also much smoother. It's hard to say things like much better or significantly better, or, you know, things like that, because the reality is that every update, if there are improvements, they're very incremental, they're very small. You know, we're talking percentages, right? So when you say something is much better, it implies that something is, you know, twice as good, or, you know, some large percentage better than it was before, when in reality FSD does not improve that way. It is not exponential. By any definition of the term exponential. I know, like, people like to say that exponential growth, but no, that's simply not true. good acceleration. I liked that. Okay, so we're fairly far away from the lead car. FSD needs to slow down.
Feet, turn left onto First Avenue South
for this intersection, because this road is raised. Not great.
Now turn left onto First Avenue South.
Okay, this has always been a little jerky, but it always struggles a little bit trying to find the lane there. So that's not really any different. Should get around this guy just fine. So I think I figured out the problem on this road. One of the problems on this road. Every intersection, or not every intersection, the like major street intersections have been kind of redone recently. And I think the map data is bad. And so I think what's happening is the map data is telling the car that the rightmost lane is a right turn only lane. And because that happens, the car thinks it has to turn right or it needs to get out of this lane. And so what it will do is at the intersection, or while we're traveling through the intersection, it will try to get over to the left lane, regardless of if there's a car there or not. And if you abort that left turn, or that lane change, if you're close enough to the intersection, it'll try and just go right, which would be fine if it was actually a right turn only. And you know, this is the FSD Beta really relies on map data, and the map data around here is not very good. And so I constantly see problems with FSD Beta here because the map data is bad, and Tesla's using map data as a crutch, because they don't have signs figured out or something. There's some reason why they haven't, why they're still using that as a crutch. It's okay to use map data in my mind. Like it's okay to have that, to sort of use the internet as the car's memory. You know, like a human would remember, oh, this intersection works this way. It's kind of similar functionality. I don't love that it needs like an internet connection to know how to drive, but the vision really needs to be able to deal with stuff like this on its own if the map data is conflicting with what reality is showing us. So it kind of showed briefly that it needed to get over. It canceled, which is fine. I suspect that's because we're at a stop, and obviously it can't make a lane change while we're at a stop. And you can't, I think Florida law says that you can't make lane changes in intersections anyway, so it really shouldn't do that, even though it does. It is legal in some places. So it may try, so if I abort, you can see the planer wants to go to the right, even though the road is clear. Generally speaking, when I'm testing FSD Beta, I do avoid selecting the lane manually, unless I absolutely must. FSD means full self-driving, and so that means it needs to be able to handle everything. It needs to be able to pick what lane you're in, it needs to be able to pick the right speed, and so anytime that you have to adjust the speed, or anytime that you have to change the lanes manually, or you know, by pushing the stalk, that's a fail for FSD Beta, because that's not full self-driving. That required me to do a thing. That would be considered something like an intervention. Not a disengagement necessarily, but an intervention. So we're going to see the same behavior at this intersection, I think, where it's going to try and go over to the left. And we don't want it to go left. We don't want it to go right either. So vision should have told it that it was totally fine to go straight there. There's no signs that say this is a right turn only. There's no arrows that say this is a right turn only. So reality is conflicting with the information that it has, and it's going with the bad information regardless. That's not ideal behavior. Now it will need to get over a lane. I think generally it gets over fine on its own. This eventually will, yeah, it's showing that it's going to want to. I think this becomes a right turn only at the next major intersection, if I can recall. Usually right around here that it starts to try to get over. Ugh, there's a lot of traffic here. Alright, well let's see what FSD Beta is going to do. It's getting a little jerky. Okay, so it has an opening, it needs to get over. That was pretty decent. I mean, honestly it should have just... I might have to take over for this. It should have just... Part of the problem with FSD Beta is that it doesn't plan ahead. So what we'll see here, it's going to try to go straight. Yep. So even though it's very obvious that the road is closed, like there's barriers and there's all this signage, and then it's trying to go over that way again, this is a problem that is a very recent issue with 10.6.1. I did not have those issues with 10.5. Lane lines are super clear, and yet both of those times it tried going into a different lane, no signaling or anything. Just not great performance. Anyway, something that I see FSD Beta a lot, and I think pretty much every beta tester can see this, is that it just doesn't look far enough ahead. It makes a decision based on a small area around the car, regardless of what the conditions are up ahead. So it'll make a lane change into a lane that looks open for like 10 meters around the car, but then, you know, 100 meters up ahead there's a road closed sign, or there's an accident or something, and it shouldn't have gotten into that lane. This is the same dumb logic that Navigate on Autopilot uses, which is why I don't really like using Navigate on Autopilot, at least the speed-based lane changes, because it always makes the wrong decision. Or like 9 times out of 10 it makes the wrong decision. .5 was actually a fairly decent release. The biggest problem that I had with 10.5 was with these signs here, these like arrows on either side signs. I think it thought that they were like bigger than they were, or like the car was bigger than it is, and it would like swerve around them, or it would slow down. See, like it's doing this thing again where it's trying to go into another lane even though there was a car there. I don't understand it. Now it's trying to come to a stop at this intersection for no reason. This intersection it's always been a bit weird on. It's always like slowed down for that intersection for some reason. I have no idea why. So that's not new for 10.6.1, that's just been there since 10.2. That's not necessary. Like, he's very obviously not coming into our lane. The thing is that the car does stuff like that all the time. It's like pretending to be safe. It does things like that all the time, even though it's not safe to do that sort of thing. And when it really needs to avoid doing, like when it needs to like slow down or something, it doesn't. It's the most annoying thing in the world. I'm not going to make excuses for FSD doing stuff like that. I know that some beta testers do. Oh, it's just trying to be careful, or it's just trying to be cautious, or whatever. No, that's dangerous. There's nothing safe about that. I don't know if that's just... it seems like... You'll see this sometimes, like, let's say that there was a pedestrian on the other side of that intersection there. The car would see that pedestrian, but it wouldn't know where he is in 3D space. And so on the visualization, it would look like he's on this side of the road. Things like that tell me that, like, the car still struggles with figuring out where things are in the real world. And that, I think, was an example of that. The car thinking that there was, that truck was much closer than it actually was.
Now turn left onto 8th Street South. In 500 feet, turn left onto 6th Street South. Now turn left onto 6th Street South.
Let's see if it's any better at these turns. I mean, not great, but not
In
terrible.
500 feet, turn left onto 1st Avenue North.
Why are we going so slow? Oh, why is the speed limit 15? I don't think that's the case.
Now turn left onto 1st Avenue North.
I should have let it go down one more because I wanted to see if it would still struggle with that particular left turn. Previously, in previous tests, when I let it go down to that intersection, it sort of waggles a bit and tries to go to the left of a car that's at that intersection, which is always fun and exciting. See, like, just not great. Sort of doing what 10.5 was doing a little bit there. There's no reason to do things like that, car.
In 500 feet, turn right onto 66th Street North. Now turn right onto 66th Street North.
Still doesn't handle this, of course.
In 500 feet, turn left onto 5th Avenue North.
It gets
Now
really
turn
close.
left onto 5th Avenue North.
It's really close to that curve there. So to sum up the drive, not really any better at anything in particular other than braking. Turning sometimes feels smoother and sometimes feels the same. Otherwise, it's the same problems. Fortunately, we're getting a protected left here. That was pretty good.
In 500 feet, your destination will be on the right.
Okay, well, hopefully,
Now your destination is on the right.
hopefully 10.7 brings some improvements finally. But so far, that seems unlikely. See you next version.